Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Ram.
Hi, good morning.
Hang is driving to Ho Chi Minh City now in the car. Roti, you had a conversation with Trin last week?
With whom?
With Trin.
Um, um,
I thought you mentioned it. Maybe it was 2 weeks, 10 days ago or so.
yeah.
I'll call you separately on that.
Okay. Yeah, we talked for a while. Yeah.
Good. Good.
He said he said he was gonna check why he was not getting the notes from from the documents,
Oh,
but then he never told me about that again.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And did he say anything about the poem?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I'll call you later or maybe tomorrow. We can talk
Okay.
about it.
Right.
Hmm. I don't think Ajahn is here yet.
Right.
Right. AJ is taking, Ajahn is taking a drug. Okay. Wait a minute. No problem. I wonder if Sarah and Jonathan will be here. Tom and Bev, Pina.
Right.
Jeff, we haven't seen him for a few weeks.
What?
We haven't seen Jeff for a few weeks.
Oh, I see.
Jeff from, I think you said Minnesota or, yeah.
Ajahn is saying please start.
Okay. And there's Jonathan and Sarah. Okay. I guess Jonathan and Sarah will be with us in a minute. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, we're here. Sorry, we had a few problems connecting. Yes.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Ajahn has suggested we go ahead.
Okay, she's going to be late, is she? Or
she's still taking some medicine or something.
Okay, that's fine.
So does anyone have some questions or comments or anything like they'd like to know about? Doesn't have to be a question.
There, Tadam.
Tadao, did you have something?
I can see a note says that Jan is ready now.
Yes, good, good. If there's no one else who wants to start, maybe I can. I was listening to a little bit of Saturday's discussion, only at the very, very beginning, where the discussion was about metta. And I was thinking how, you know, we talk about metta as kindness or friendliness. And the only way we can, at this point, without knowing metta as a reality, know or think that there has been metta is by thinking that there has been friendliness or kindness. But at this point, so mixed with my friendliness, my kindness, you know, maybe moments of metta, but more moments of self, thinking it's mine and clinging to it. So it occurred to me that one can only really know metta when there is understanding of it as a reality that arises and falls away and is gone, just like any other reality. And without that kind of understanding, it's just so easy to take it for self and think we are, metta towards other people, when in fact there are no people or things. It's just another conditioned reality that we feel that we take special interest in, or consciously or unconsciously would like to have. And there was a sentence that I heard Ajahn saying. There's a few here. When there is metta, when there is no understanding of I, one clings to the idea of I. One has metta, but actually there is no one there. One realizes that only hardness is there. And this is from understanding that all beings are the same. It's the one realizes that only hardness is there. Can someone speak to that a bit?
Usually, like last week in both the Taiwanese and the Vietnamese sessions, there were a lot of questions about metta. And usually everyone would like to have more metta. And so people follow practices to try to have more metta. And as you said, if there's no understanding of the nature of metta right now, when it appears, if it appears, then it can't be developed or understood at another time. And why is it metta one is so interested to hear about or develop? What about seeing now, or what about hearing? Because metta is just another conditioned reality like any other reality. So it's the strong clinging to oneself when one would just like to have more goodness, more kindness, more friendship. And this is the opposite of metta, which sees the benefit or cares for the welfare of others naturally and genuinely. And those are the moments when it can be understood, not another time. And there were quite a few questions about the nature of metta to anyone, because usually everyone would like to be kind or friendly to their good friends or family members or their teacher who is so kind. But this is not the quality of metta. The quality of metta is friendliness and caring to whoever or whichever living being one is associated with. So when walking down the street or sitting on the bus, what about caring and friendliness to anyone one associates with, and understanding that in truth, everyone is the same, because there is no one. There are just moments of pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, moments of seeing, moments of hearing, kusala, akusala, hardness that is touched, heat that is touched. So different realities which are just the same. So appreciating this is a condition for there to be more metta. So as more understanding develops of realities as being conditioned, not in anyone's control, it's a condition for there to be more metta developed. So I think that those were the main points that were being discussed.
What about when you were saying the, kindness to family or close friends, that's not really what metta is, because is that because of the attachment is so strong, and it's not associating, it can't be considered as associating equally with beings.
So the attachment is the near enemy of metta. So usually what is taken for metta is attachment. Like, why does one care so much or want to be so kind to one's family member, or for example, one's child or one's husband? What about another child or another person? Why this one so much when it could be anyone? And the same with one's friends, like, why does one just want to give gifts to Ajahn or this particular person? What about anyone who is in need, or anyone one can help at any time? So it doesn't mean there cannot be metta to one's family or one's friends or Ajahn or whoever, but usually the attachment is taken for metta. So if it's genuine caring or kindness, it's anyone one has an opportunity to assist or show friendliness to, any insect, any being.
Okay,
There's
so go ahead, Roti.
well, I just wanted to go back to the sentence you said at the beginning, something like that there's no metta, there's only hardness.
Oh,
What was that?
Okay, it started out by saying when there's no understanding of I, one clings to the idea of I. One has metta, but actually there is no one there. One realizes that only hardness is there.
That part, yeah, I find that part a little weird. I don't understand what it means. There's no metta, there's only hardness there. I mean, where is there? What do you mean by there? I mean, if that's the point in order to understand that sentence.
Let me read the rest of the
it's-
sentence, Roti. I'm not sure it's going to help you, but
Jonathan is
put it
going to
in-
say something, I think.
okay.
I was going to say it may be a reference to what is appearing at the present moment. So I think what Ajahn is getting at is one is always concerned to know whether there is metta or kusala at the present moment, the mind state. And the more one is concerned about this, then the more that there will be the mixing up of any kusala with idea of self, which Anne was mentioning at the beginning, because there's always the interest in, am I having metta now? Is it kusala? And so on. Whereas what is actually appearing may be something quite different, like hardness, for example, or visible object. So rather than thinking about my kusala, how's it going? Am I developing? And so on. It's the development of the path is about understanding any reality that's appearing at the present moment. So it might just be hardness. But I think, Anne, just going back to your original point, of course, one doesn't have to have studied the Dhamma in order for there to be metta. Metta can and does arise in daily life for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of really just not being that concerned about whether or not it's metta at the moment. But if it does arise, then the more one has considered metta and its quality, the more chance there is that it will be recognized as such when it does arise. So that's why we talk about it quite a bit. But apart from that, it's not going to necessarily make metta more likely to arise or more frequent.
Right, yeah.
But if and when it
Why-
arises, then there's a chance
why-
of appreciating that moment is different from other moments.
Why is it
Yeah.
important to recognize it?
Because only by being recognized can the wholesome quality be developed rather than an unwholesome quality that would take for metta. So the development of kusala generally depends on coming to recognize moments of kusala as distinct from moments that are not kusala. Quality of calmness, which is the characteristic, which is the signature flag of the moment of kusala. There's none of the, it's a moment of calm and not of irritation, whatever might otherwise normal. Restlessness is the word I'm trying to think of. That is also the signature quality of kusala. All kinds of kusala.
It seems like I don't know what's more important, to try to recognize a quality, or to better not be trying to taking things just out of just thinking that this is this or that is that, and you know what I mean.
Trying to recognize or trying to pinpoint, then that's the wrong path. That's the opposite of understanding that quality when it appears. But like Anne was mentioning about when it's to one's family members, when it's partiality, that's the characteristic of attachment, because it's this person in particular that one would like to be happy. Whereas the quality of metta is impartiality to anyone one associates with. And appreciating this, it's helpful. It's helpful to understanding how a lot of what the kindness and care we're used to is actually attachment. And people who haven't heard the Buddha's teachings, who one meets, they have no idea that a lot of the kindness and care in their family or to friends is actually a kusala attachment. So that's why we discuss about different realities. But if there's any trying to have metta or trying to pinpoint or trying to recognize it, just like if there's trying to pinpoint moments of seeing or hearing or any other reality, it's the wrong path, because it's I doing something, I trying.
I assuming that the characteristic has to be like this or like that, right?
Exactly, that's just speculating about the story. It's
Right.
not the understanding of the quality when it appears naturally.
Even this description about metta regarding impartiality, it seems a little conventional in a way, because it's just like, okay, if I'm being kind to somebody who's not part of my family, then it's metta, just because
That's not the right understanding. The right understanding by referring to metta as the one that is not partial is just showing it is the quality of kindness when there is an opportunity, whenever one's associating with others, not this one or that one. It doesn't matter if it's the family member or the person on the bus or the little child that's sick in the street. Quality of metta is kindness to whoever one is associating with. The
So
big,
it's not-
fat, rich, ugly one, or the nice, pretty, sweet little child. It can be friendliness anytime.
So it's not selecting.
It's not selecting. That's what is meant by impartial. What I mean by impartiality. Not this one because he has this political view and not that political view, and not this one because he's very rich and doesn't pay his tax, but not that one. It's just whoever one is associating with or thinking about. Maeve, have you got something you'd like to add?
Can't hear you, Maeve. Please turn on your mic.
It looks like I have. If I'm not...
Yes.
We can hear you.
Now
Good.
we can.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, it's not in the territory of wanting to have metta, but the experience of actually observing the kindness of others. Now, I know you've just qualified that by saying that it's quite possibly more likely to be attachment than metta, but nonetheless, in observing that people who have an inclination to kindness and a kind of a Catholic kindness, in a sense of not discriminating, in that tendency towards impartiality, it's like you can learn from that in terms of seeing how it can relieve the suffering of others. It can make people feel safe. I'm thinking about, for example, volunteers who work with refugees, and devote large amounts of time to making sure that those people feel safe and they have the basics of life, etc., etc. And I think it's possible to observe that there is I suppose, a good result from that in terms of both the people who practice it, and they don't think in terms of practicing, but it's, I suppose there's something about not thinking about themselves at that moment, that they are, working for the welfare of others. So while it mightn't be the direct experience of metta, observing those actions or even maybe reading about them, for example, during the pandemic, when many people are out of their way to be helpful to others, it does seem to suggest that at those times, that lack of thinking about the other, or the lack of thinking about the self and thinking about the other instead, has a good result. And that there's something that at an intellectual level to be learned from that. So I just wondered, would you like to comment about that?
I think Ajahn is here now. Would you like to comment, Ajahn, first?
Well, I think that we have to consider carefully what about having great Dhamma Vihara, no matter it is metta or karuna, mudita or ubeka, up to the degree as to be able to be born in the Brahma world, but not understanding this moment as it is. Try to have more and more, the better I. But no understanding, because everything is in darkness like now. Metta is like the phasa or feeling or sanya or any reality, cetasikas and citta, unknown, while it arises and falls away all the time, each one by conditions, but no understanding enough to understand it. The point of understanding is to understand the unnothingness of whatever is there as sunyata, no longer than that, just only a moment and gone away. That's why it's quite very, very difficult to get rid of the idea of self, even to have less the idea of self, of whatever is now. See, not less yet, depending on panya. That's why the point is listening to the truth of actually there's no one. If we try to experience metta, it's like trying to experience phassa. Why just metta, not phassa? They're all the same, not self at all. That's why the Buddha pointed to the truth of whatever is now as it is, just to have a little bit of understanding from moment to moment, to condition moment of being aware directly to the object but with understanding at the very, we can say, high level of intellectual understanding, but it's not yet the degree of higher understanding with the direct awareness, and not to the degree of that which experience directly the truth of it. Otherwise, we think about things all the time, but now the characteristic which is not self is there, unknown, like seeing is not self. It's only the moment of experiencing an object which impinges on the senses, no matter eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or body. But these truths are in a day, all the time, unknown. And the study of each one should bring about even metta. The moment of kindness is not I, it's just a reality which experience different from that which cannot experience. But it will lead to understanding that which is there as not self at all when it's the manifestation of the truth. But how come? There must be the understanding, little by little, of no one and no self at all. That is a level of sati, after understanding what it is, like Dhamma or Rupa. So even right now, hardness is appearing, and that which experiences it is not known. So how can there be the understanding of hardness as just that which arises by conditions and falls away instantly for everything, the same. See? So come back to understanding. No, this is the most important point. Otherwise, whatever we know, study and learn must be still I there. See? Even talking about metta, the I, and the phassa and the vedana and so on, cetasikas are there, unknown as usual. But by understanding that the point is to understand the characteristic as it is, not as metta or anything, but that which experiences and that which cannot experience. Now, see, it's time to understand what appears. While visible object is now appearing, but it still be someone or something as usual. Is there some understanding, even a little bit of understanding that it's just so very short, no more? Little by little, this can condition understanding of what is there as not self. Otherwise, no matter how much we read the book and understand the characteristic of such and such reality, but as long as nothing which appears now can be directly developed with understanding of no one as it is, it's impossible. For example, even right now, there is that which experiences, and we take it for seeing or hearing or thinking or liking or metta or whatever. But that characteristic as it is, as no one has not enough condition to understand it as it is, different just by thought, by thinking about the truth. It's only there. It's not in a day, happen yet. As long as there is the attachment to many, many things in life, this or that, as something there all the time. So it takes quite a long, long time. No matter we talk about metta right now, what about next life? What about the understanding of metta? Because there is more conditions for akusala moments to arise. That's why we learn to understand how difficult it is to really understand the truth, not just thinking about it, think carefully about it, and know what it is by books or whatever we have read or listened. That's why we have to understand the difference between the understanding at level of intellectual understanding about what's now, which will condition a moment of directly understanding it with what we have learned, just a little from the very beginning. And it has to keep on by conditions all the time. And the most difficult thing is that no one there who can do anything. Even that moment is conditioned on only how much understand of it which is there can be known, not as we are talking about, but as that which is not self. So now we are listening to the truth of whatever is there, metta or anger or whatever it is, but from understanding that it's not self at all, it's just like that. Little by little will be conditions to condition the direct awareness with all the understanding that we have learned to begin to understand the characteristic of that as not self. So the most important point is to understand, no matter we're talking about, we are talking about realities which are not self. But these three are conditioned to, no matter what we are thinking about, is conditioned. And no one can do anything because actually there's no one. The understanding of no one is there. It's only that brings about a little more understanding of the characteristic of that which can experience or which cannot experience until one by one, little by little, it appears clear, but not as clear as the moment when it's vipassana jnana. No one there, see, as we have learned, no one at all. And that reality shows up its characteristic. The experience has no shape, no form, no color, nothing at all. But it's there, thinking about nothing, but it's there, which experiences. But as the object is not known, that what is the object of that experience, but the experience is there, even right now. See, to understand that as not me intellectually until direct awareness, until it appears well, better and better, until it's there by conditions. When it can show up by conditions because of panya is there, underlined, to understand that because of the enough understanding of the characteristic which is not self. So what is now? No matter whether we try to find out whether it's metta or karuna or ubeka or what, but it's not me. It's just that which experiences. That's why the first vipassana jnana is nama, rupa, paricheta jnana. No matter what appears, the intellectual understanding understand it as the experiencing or that which experience no word at all. Because reality is the truth of reality is beyond words. That's why no words, because at that moment it's just like seeing. No word at moment of seeing, no word at moment of thinking. We don't have to say that it thinks or thinking is thinking, but it's there, that which experiences different object at a time, so clear at a time, because there must be only one object to be known so clearly. Otherwise, when many things together, nothing can appear clearly. So we can talk about realities to learn that they are not anything at all, just as it is, no one there, nothing there. Actually, only the absolute realities. This is the way to break up what is there together, like now, I, all the time, thing, all the time. So this way to eliminate the clinging ignorance about whatever appears now. So very, very subtle. The more understanding of the truth, the panya develops which can understand the subtlety of realities as it is. Each one is so subtle to be experienced as it's true. So it's quite a long way, but from understanding clearly each time, listening to the teaching as it cannot be taken for self, no matter what, no matter kindness, it's not me, just different reality at a time, even in a moment like Vittaka, Phassa, Vedana, like or dislike, different moments by conditions all the time. And no more, never again, only once in samsara. So what's the use of just being born, experience everything in life, pleasant and unpleasant, remember this and that from moment to moment, and then completely gone, no more at all. The kanika morana, temporary, momentarily, death all the time. And someone said that, oh, she now have less fear of death because it's now exactly the same. The difference is that there cannot be this I or identity anymore after death. Different ones, no matter now or last or future, exactly the same. And when whatever is conditioned to appear as some reality, like attachment or hatred, see, no understanding which has accumulated long time ago, is so great that even Panya cannot just thinking about that as no one know me at all. So how can there be the fully or perfect understanding of that as not self without hearing again and again to understand it, what we are talking about? Maybe there now, kindness, see, but it's not known. It doesn't show up because what can know it is only Panya, which begins to understand from the very beginning of no one or dhammas are anatta. And how can we know that now? Even the understanding, no matter how little it is, will be accumulated on and on and on and on, little by little, until it can be conditions for whatever arises with more panya, little by little, different degrees. That's why we can think a lot about everything, but forget about it's not self, it's not me. But the more understanding of whatever reality is can be conditioned for letting go the idea of self when it's considered wisely. That what's the point of listening to understand the absolute truth, which is now no more. Whatever is there now, gone completely all the time. No expectation, no selection to experience this or that. That is the developed panya, little by little. From moment to moment, see, from moment to moment, unknown. And this is conditioned for better and better understanding of reality as it is, no one, nothing at all. Please.
Ajahn, you mentioned just a moment ago that you indicated that Phassa and Metta and Sanya, other Jaitasikas, are similar in that they are Jaitasikas, and that we don't know Pasa, we don't know
Metta.
Sanya, Metta. Okay, Metta. We
Atosa.
don't. I'm sorry.
Metta or Tosa, depending on the object, whether it's being or not being.
Right. Yes, metta, though we don't know it as a reality, but we can know when there has been friendliness or kindness. I
Really?
suppose mistaken
As
that for
that?
loka. Well, go ahead,
As
Ajahn.
a reality,
No, we don't know it as a reality, but we can know that it must have arisen for friendliness or kindness to
and what
arise.
about Phassa? And what about Chetana?
We can't know those.
Anything?
I'm
The
sorry, I
same.
didn't hear that.
So it's the
And
same, it's just speculating about, like if
Yes,
we try to know or try to experience metta, it's like trying to know and experience passa, that which can't be known and that which has fallen away. So it's no different. So usually everyone is interested to have metta, but no one says, oh, I need to have passa and I need to experience passa. But it's just the same when there's trying to know or trying to speculate about whether there was metta in the past. It's just like trying to know about passa. And that's why, back to Maeve's question, it's the same with others, just as we cannot speculate about whether there was metta a few moments ago. And at that moment, it's just taking it for my metta. It's the same with others. We can speculate this is a kind person or this person has a lot of metta, but actually it's just taking it for someone's metta. It's not actually understanding the characteristic of metta when it appears. It's just conventionally, it's true, we can say some people are kind, but when we hear that our friend, like I have a friend who works in emergency with many COVID patients in London, and I could say, oh, he's such a kind person. But who can say whether there are moments of metta or it's just a story about my friend and his metta? It's not actually understanding anything about the characteristic of metta when it appears, just like a passa or dosa or any other reality.
And so, just building on what Sarah's comment there, it's not possible to know to what extent that person who's doing these good deeds is having metta, genuine kusala, or to what extent there's a lot of conceit, or it may be done as part of an ideology that one wants to help refugees and against the government, or I mean, it may have started off as a goodness of the heart sort of thing and developed into something more. One doesn't know. So there's no point in, as Sarah said, just trying to speculate. And the only way of learning more about these wholesome qualities is recognizing them as and when they arise.
The most important thing, as Ajahn has been stressing again and again, is understanding they're just conditioned dharmas. Not my goodness or my badness, but they're just dharmas that pass away instantly. And this is a way that gradually there'll be less clinging to that metta when it arises, because it's just another dharma, like dosa or panya or attachment. It's just a dharma to be understood as anatta. And this is the only way that attachment develops with understanding. But so subtle, as she said.
I wasn't thinking so much about speculating, was it or was it not metta, but I'm thinking now it's like when seeing arises, there's no without seeing actually appearing, there's no knowing. There's no understanding that it's there. The only reason one, now knowing a bit about Dhamma, but not having developed to the stage of direct understanding, we can know intellectually that seeing that once, if I see you, or if I see this computer screen, I can know that there had to have been a moment, or there have to be continuing moments of seeing for the nimitta and concepts to be formed. So I think I'm seeing. And it seems that it would be the same with metta, that until it is known as a reality, if there is friendliness or kindness, one can know intellectually. And I'm not saying search, to see, was that a moment of metta or wasn't it? Not so much that, as just looking at it intellectually, that where there is friendliness, kindness, well, I suppose until one really understands it as a reality, there must have been either attachment or metta. And as I say, I'm not thinking about turning around and saying, well, was there, wasn't there? Just generally, intellectually.
And until it's understanding of it as the reality, isn't it my metta or my kindness that occurred?
That's right. Well,
so it has to always begin with the understanding of whatever appears, no matter it's a moment of experiencing, or call it a mental quality, or rupa, as reality, as a Dhamma. Otherwise, it's always my kindness a moment ago.
And Sarah, just or maybe actually addressing what you said, Jonathan. I think I was talking about the observation of the kindness of others by way of suggesting that there is always thinking about others. There's always thinking about people and things until there's direct experience of reality. So if that thinking perhaps is a condition to reflect on metta, like at an intellectual level, understanding the characteristic, being interested in the characteristics of metta, of why perhaps, as Tadao was asking the other day, the Buddha placed a lot of emphasis on metta, that just at not at the absolute level, not at the level of absolute reality, but at relative, the relative level, we can see that kindness, without speculating on people's motives, we can see that the results of kindness in the world around us do have benefit. If we denied that, then it would seem that we were maybe even discouraging the kind actions,
Right.
Regardless, and this, attributing the wrong motive to them, etc.
Sure, one doesn't want to judge other people, but that goes for whether it's kusala or whether it's akusala. But I think what you're saying, Maeve, is that seeing the example of kindness in others can be a condition for useful reflection on the benefit of kindness and developing wholesome mental states. And I'd agree with that.
Yes.
So it's a kind of prompting, seeing kindness of others and being able to appreciate the kindness of others is itself a form of kusala, or can be. That's what we call anumodana. And so rejoicing in the kusala of others is itself a kind of kusala. And when I made the comments about not knowing the motivation of others, it was just to be realistic about it rather than to think that one should judge others harshly and be skeptical about motives or something like that. So that's, I hope I've clarified that.
Yes, yes.
One
That's,
can appreciate the goodness or the kindness, while at the same time understanding that actually for everyone, a kusala arises much more than kusala, and the moments of true kindness with adosa cetasika arising with kusala citas are few and far between the countless moments of attachment. But that doesn't mean one cannot appreciate the kindness and goodness, even though one doesn't know the citas of others at all, and one cannot tell from the outer appearance at all. But still one learns, and it becomes more and more apparent with understanding that most of the day, from when we wake up and when we're with others, attachment and akusala is far, far more common, even if one's helping the sick children or rescuing an insect, moments of attachment, moments of feeling sorry for the insect, far more common than the genuine moments of kindness and compassion. So understanding is so important, because without it, there is always taking of what is akusala or kusala. There isn't the truthfulness isn't apparent, and it's always my kindness or my attachment. And I think the main point, as Ajahn was stressing, is understanding of dharmas as anatta. So even when one appreciates others' kind deeds, the understanding that these are dharmas rather than other people is most precious of all.
And what about
I wonder if we can just for a moment go back to what the question that Tadao raised, and that was the emphasis that the Buddha placed on metta, which is not unique to the Buddha, actually, in terms of there being an emphasis on kindness and generosity from many other sources. But why did the Buddha single out metta? I'm not sure that when I was listening, and maybe that I can ask Ajahn directly, is it possible to say something about that or to know anything about that?
Okay, I think that now we better understanding the subtlety of dharmas, what is meant by enlightenment. Buddha enlightened, so he taught the way to experience directly until the time of enlightenment can be there. One day we don't know when, because now all dharmas, no self at all, not known yet. So how to begin to see reality as the absolute truth, the Four Noble Truths? Is metta good?
Well, the Buddha suggested that it was, and I think our experience can confirm that.
Yes, but the absolute noble truth, what about the first noble truth?
Yes, what about it, Ajahn? I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're asking.
What is the first noble truth of the Four Noble Truths? What is the first one?
The existence of dukkha.
Yes, is metta dukkha or good?
Well, it's dukkha insofar as it is not permanent and it is not self.
Absolute truth. But how to gain or how to reach that level of understanding which can eradicate the idea of I or self or thing of or dharmas now without panya, It's impossible. But can Panya arise by itself or by someone try to have it so much? Impossible. That's why even Panya needs conditions for its arising to see what is benefit and what is not benefit at all. To condition that moment of enlightenment in the end. See, that's why we cannot have enlightenment now. Impossible. Not such level of panya yet. But how to have panya to understand in the beginning what's wholesome and what is unwholesome. Wholesome conditions will condition what? Unwholesome karma condition what? See, in the day when there are so many akusala, how can there be moment for panya to understand it? That's why it needs our parami to condition metta, but not just I would like to have it. I would like to have metta and more metta on someone thing up to the degree of being Brahma. See, that's not the point, because the enlightenment means to understand the truth, and it can eradicate what has accumulated for how long. It's like miracle. See, how can be eradicated? Absolutely, never again. It has to be the very high level of panya. How come? From one moment to another moment of kusala, of no matter what. No expectation for to have just kusala with panya. Impossible. Because at moment of kusala, is no, that is not moment of akusala. So it can be conditioned little by little to let go any kind of akusala, little by little, including metta and karuna and dana and whatever is there as condition for each moment to begin to develop strong enough to even think about this moment as not self. It's only that which experiences. See, we learned a lot about the characteristic of metta and of vitaka and so on. But is there a moment of thinking, not just direct awareness yet, but even thinking about that as it's only that which sees or it is an experiencing, even right now or any time, even while one is asleep, see, fast asleep, it's there, unknown. So we better understand each word as no self, no thing at all, no matter what we're talking about. For example, at moment of deep sleep, no one there, no world at all. But how come the moment as soon as that it is the moment of waking up, see, what's there? And experiencing is there. The attachment to the being is there. And is this a point to understand that no one there? Otherwise, we think about metta and so on. But what about just the moment of waking up? See, there must be the reality which is different from the moment of being fast asleep. Unknown all day, all night, all years, and in life, many lives. It's just like this. That's why it's so very difficult, so very deep, so very subtle to understand what is right now as it is, as no one. That's why we see the benefit of the parami, but no self who try to have it so much or to understand it as I understand that, but as it is, as no one, no I, who now understands. So this is very deep point too, because people just want to be something, want to be good in this aspect or that aspect. But what about moment when it's akusala? Shouldn't it be known as no self and no one at all? Otherwise, no understanding of what is meant by all dhammas are anatta, and the first dukkha must be known. Not just clinging to it as I am good one or something like that. I have metta, But even its metta of the degree up to be able to be born in the Brahma world, no understanding of this movement. That's why it's useless, because it's just one part of the circle of death and birth and death. That's all. What about everyone is going to die? See, now, with understanding, or some understanding, or no understanding at all. That's why learning to understand that actually the destination, the purpose of listening to the Dhamma is to understand the truth of no one, no self at all. Because what is there now can be directly experienced from stage to stage as arising and falling away, which is not now. But it can be by conditions, patience, sattva, adhidana, see, or that baramis can be conditioned only. Otherwise, the other things, akusala, not any level of akusala cannot lead to understanding at all. That's why we know that in a day, wake up with ignorance, living with ignorance. What about moment of beginning to see, to open one's eyes, to understand the truth, which is in darkness now, so very dark. But Panya is not like that. Even in darkness, it can understand reality, which is not known now. From understanding the purpose of studying to understand that actually it's not me, no one. Very temporary, momentarily, realities, conditioned. That is the meaning of the world. See, that's why each word should be understood clearly. Is there world? See, what is the world? Otherwise, what is the right answer for what is the world? And what I? Is it a world too? Arising and falling away all the time? No one at all, because no more I as soon as a reality arising and falling away all the time cannot return, cannot be found anywhere at all, only once in samsara. And understand that this is true can condition moment of understanding the truth of whatever it's heard, as it's just only a moment, no I at all. Otherwise, it's I again and again and again. Because the understanding of not I, no me, is just in a moment and then it's gone. And the other reality conditioned all day by conditions. And this is the exact meaning of no one there, anatta, no thing there at all. So how much one lives in darkness in samsara from eons and eons ago up to now. So it's so happy or joyful to know that it can be known, not now, but one day, by understanding the truth that actually there's no self.
Ajahn, the idea of self is also, it takes very
Conditioned
subtle forms.
reality.
I'm,
Conditioned reality.
I'm sorry, please say again, Ajahn.
Actually, it's just a reality, no I who cling at all.
And like you said, Maeve, other teachers, other people talk about kindness or the quality of metta. The quality of metta is not unique to the Buddha, but what is unique is the understanding of metta as a Dhamma, a wholesome Dhamma that is anatta. So when we read in suttas about the urging or the encouragement of metta, it's always the with the understanding of metta as Dhamma, not my metta. So it's always referring to metta parami, the quality of metta that can only be developed with the understanding of realities. So without this understanding, it is like any metta taught by anyone or developed by anyone. But the point is, in whatever we read, it's always about the understanding of Dhamma. So no matter the Buddha is talking about seeing or about the khandhas or about metta or about different feelings, it's always about dhammas, which each one of which is dukkha, inherently unsatisfactory. So the metta at this moment is dukkha because it arises and falls away instantly, not in anyone's control. The panya is also dukkha because it's gone, never to arise again. And it's the understanding of dhammas as dukkha, which gradually leads to the lessening of the hold of clinging to those wholesome realities, wanting to be a good person, wanting to have more understanding, because it is the understanding that actually each one is dukkha, not worth clinging to for an instant. So it's true that everyone encourages goodness or kindness, but does everyone understand what metta is at this moment as Dhamma? That is dukkha.
Yes, that's very true, Sarah. And I think it's probably another example of how one's accumulations, for example, if they are towards being kind, and one hears that it's important to be kind, one thinks that this is like almost the way to understanding. So again, there's that subtle underpinning of the self in that thinking, and not, as Ajahn keeps emphasizing, not seeing understanding as being the absolute heart of the matter. It's like, oh, well, maybe the practice of metta is going to assist understanding, or condition the kind of understanding that is at that level, etc. And Ajahn keeps, and thank you, Ajahn, you keep bringing us back to that it has to be understanding that sits underneath everything.
Without that understanding of dhammas as anatta from the very beginning, it's all going to be the story about me and my kindness or my compassion or my deeds and actions, or others' kindness and deeds and actions. So that's why the understanding of what is the truth, what is Dhamma, what is anatta from the beginning has to, as you say, underpin whatever else one hears or reads. Otherwise, it's all taking one off track. And this is why we read that in the deepest sense, even the development of the greatest kindness and the attainment of jhanas is actually the wrong path if there's no understanding of reality at that moment or this moment.
I think also there is an element of it being an either-or situation, that it's either the development of understanding and not bothering about kindness because it's just it's people are, as Jonathan said the other day, chitta, jeta seeker and rupa. So there can be a kind of, and it's a misunderstanding, but it's like downplaying, thinking that understanding has to be developed at the expense of kindness, for example.
That would
But
be wrong understanding if one thinks, okay, why bother doing anything good because they're all realities and it's all anatta. That would be the wrong path, just as it's the wrong path to think I must try to be kind or I must have more metta is the wrong path. So that's why it's the middle way is the understanding of whatever is conditioned. And that includes understanding the value of moments of kindness, because those are the realities, and why understanding actually leads to greater and higher metta, because it is truthful to what the quality really is and when it appears, and it understands the value of that metta as distinct from the usual clinging when one's with other people. So it's only understanding that can actually lead to the development of metta and the understanding of it as anatta.
yes, so
So-
again, it
So
comes
many traps along the way. Yeah.
absolutely, and I suppose it comes back to the subtlety of the path. You know, the way out of suffering is not. It's not straightforward. It is very subtle, and as you say, many pitfalls.
Yes. And if one says, oh, well, all dharmas are anatta, so there's no point in getting up or going to work or taking care of my family or showing kindness to those around, this is wrong understanding for sure. Yes.
Mm. Mm.
It's like using anatta as an excuse.
Yes. Yes.
And what do you mean when you say practice metta?
Well, we cannot practice.
Right. So
Metta.
anyone who try to practice is the one who do not understand Dhamma.
Mm. So to be kind, Ajahn, will just arise by conditions like any other reality.
Yeah. And Panya can lead to all kinds of kusala by more and more understanding,
Mm.
because it knows what is right and what is wrong, what is the wholesome and what is unwholesome, and what is the cause and what is the effect. No one, see, not just I can have cause for this and that. It will lead to more understanding of the depth of no I now. Otherwise, it's useless when we just talk about it and there's no moment of understanding of this moment at all as not self. The asava is now at the moment of seeing, see. And the moment is so very, very short. So usually in a day, what follows seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching is asava, depending of what is there. Kamasava, Bhavasava, or Tidasava. All troubles and dukkha comes from the misunderstanding of reality and take it for I when there's no I at all.
Mm.
That's why one can understand how panya can lead to more kusala. Because the understanding of no I at all. There are only wholesome realities and unwholesome realities and other realities, vipaka and kiriya citta. That's the purpose of studying the truth, to understand as conditions for direct awareness, to understand what appears now by conditions. This is very difficult because it is motivated by I most of the time when there's no understanding. And that cannot be known unless studying the each citta and cetasikas taught by the Buddha from his enlightenment. Otherwise, we just pay respect to very little understanding of I, of we, when there is the understanding of the panya of the Buddha. But it's much more greater than what we can think about.
Do others have any questions or comments on this?
I have a question.
Please, go ahead.
Okay. This may be a very stupid question, but I'm wondering whether seeing anatta in reality and seeing realities as they are, these two things are the 100% same, or they are slightly different notions. Is it clear, not clear? So anatterness is always emphasized, yeah? But we have to see anatterness in realities, yeah? And that is sort of one thing. But another thing, the other thing is seeing realities as they are, seeing nama as nama, seeing rupa as rupa. I'm wondering whether these two things are 100% the same thing, or they are slightly different.
Is there any other person in the world, or even what one takes for I is not there anymore, from moment to moment only?
Yeah.
Living alone, but actually alone means not I, only different realities arising by conditions. Unexpectedly, what would be next moment? Unknown. Who can know? It's there already, again and again and again. As that which has fallen away. And this is the absolute truth, conditioned to the enlightened moment.
So it's exactly the same to Tao. For example, visible object, which is seen now, it's just that which is seen, the visible object. No seeing, no one there. It's anatta, just visible object. And visible object is just a Dhamma, just a rupa, which arises and falls away. So whether we say that visible object is just visible object, or it's just a rupa, or just a Dhamma, or it's no one, no thing, just anatta, it's just the same. It's just pointing to the characteristic of that reality which is seen, whichever words we use.
I think there is some misunderstanding, though, about this, because I've heard people talk about seeing the anatterness in realities as though anatterness is kind of to be applied to different realities. But that is not the development of the path taught by the Buddha.
Mm.
For the anattaness of, say, visible object
Mm.
to be seen,
Mm.
there has to be visible object as the object of understanding.
Mm.
And visible object as object of understanding
Mm.
can, depending on the level of understanding at the moment,
Mm.
it could be seen as just a rupa, it could be known as anicca or anatta or dukkha. So the true development of understanding is the understanding of different conditioned realities.
Mm.
And realities are seen as they are, but that can be one of several ways, as a nama, as a rupa, as the particular reality, such as that which is object of seeing consciousness, or as anicca, dukkha, or anatta.
Mm. I think Mahayana emphasizes on seeing anattanness or sunyata. And to me, it's very much like top-down approach.
Yeah.
It's like they may talk about seeing the void, but if there's no understanding of what visible object is, just
So-
the Dhamma which is seen now, it's impossible to understand that visible object as anatta or sunyata,
Yeah.
which
So-
is gone immediately.
It's a misunderstanding of Buddha's teaching,
Mm.
that approach.
And this is why it cannot, the understanding cannot just be repeating words like anatta and dukkha and sunyata. It has to begin with the understanding of realities. Like if there's no understanding of the distinction between seeing and visible object, and there's still the idea that I see or something is seen, it's impossible to understand anything about what is meant by anatta
Yeah.
or anicca or dukkha.
So our approach is very much bottom-up approach.
No, I wouldn't say that, Tadal, because that's a conceptual notion of top-down or bottom-up.
Yeah.
The approach taught by the Buddha, I would just say, is seeing realities as they are.
Mm.
Seeing a reality that is now appearing
Mm.
as it truly is.
Mm.
I think
But-
if one keeps that in mind, then as one is not going to be distracted by a lot of different ideas that one hears about seeing anattanness or experiencing dukkhaness or stuff like that.
And as Ajahn mentioned at the end on the discussion about metta, to really be for there really to be understanding of these different dhammas, there has to be the understanding of each citta, each cetasika, each rupa, because otherwise it's always the idea of something or someone. For example, talking about metta, there has to be the understanding that it's adosa cetasika when the object are other beings, and there has to be the understanding about when a dosa arises. For example, in an idle process, the object is visible object, so there cannot be metta in the idle process. The mind or process, usually the object is an idea or concept. Usually there is clinging or ignorance. So only in rare moments when there are kusala cittas in the mind or process with other beings as object does metta, adosa, cetasika arise, just for 7 brief moments with those kusala cittas. If there isn't some considering about cittas, cetasikas and rupas and different realities, there will always be the idea of the goodness lasting or the visible object that's seen lasting and so on. So in order to break down the idea of a whole or a situation, there has to be the considering about different dhammas and the understanding of different dhammas as just dhammas. And this is what is meant by anatta. They're just dhammas arising by conditions, not in anyone's control. So it's not a matter of the words, but that understanding has to develop. So if we meet someone and they just talk about the anatterness and realities, well, what are the realities? There has to be that understanding from the start.
At the beginning, Sarah said that in your discussion in Taiwanese and Vietnamese groups, there are lots of discussion on metta. And I can see that because in Mahayana, development of four Brahma Vihara are regarded as more important than development of Panya. They emphasize a lot on these good qualities. Here, I'm wondering, in Theravada, in our teaching, development of these four subliminal qualities, is emphasized because they are something special or because they are part of kusala. Can you see my question?
I think the Buddha taught about all kinds of realities. So sometimes the sutras were just about different Vedana because we find the feelings so important. Everyone would like to have pleasant feelings so much. And sometimes he just taught about experiences through the sense doors, seeing visible object, eye sense. And sometimes he taught sutras about metta or generosity or about other paramis. So sometimes he taught many sutras, he taught about jhanas because these are also great wholesomeness, the highest kind of samatha bhavana. He taught about all kinds of realities as being conditioned and dukkha and not to be clung to. So whatever he taught about, he was talking about the Four Noble Truths, each conditioned reality being dukkha, and whatever arises as being anatta, not in anyone's control. So the point is nothing for anyone to do or try to have or practice. As John was stressing, as soon as there's an idea of I should practice more metta, or I should have more generosity, or I should work towards experiencing jhanas, is completely the wrong path. So he also taught in other sutras about the wrong path as well as the right path. And the wrong path is the idea that I can develop understanding, or I can have more metta, or I should have more good qualities. So I think whatever he taught about, it's not something to be done, but emphasizing what is wholesome, what is unwholesome, what is vipaka. In the Vinaya, he taught a lot about akusala citas, not much about metta, but a lot about different kinds of akusala in different circumstances. So he taught about all kinds of realities to show what is worthy and what is not worthy, but all are anatta.
And I just add a couple of points to consider, because I've heard it said quite often that Buddha gave a lot of emphasis to the Brahmaviharas, and I'm not sure it's really a helpful characterization of what is in the suttas, because I think he chose a lot of different aspects of kusala and akusala to talk about from time to time. But just to make a couple of comments, firstly, that he taught a lot about things that people of the time were interested in. And for example, jhana was well known and developed among ascetics at the time. So that was a big subject, a big topic of his teaching, how the person who is developing jhana can also develop understanding and insight. And likewise with the Brahmaviharas, it seems that they were well known at the time. And so a lot of people may have thought they were special, but the Buddha would show how they are just dhammas like other conditioned dhammas, or how the person developing those qualities can also develop understanding and insight at the same time. And the other point is that the four illimitables, they are a distinct, they are special in the sense of they are illimitables, where other forms of kusala cannot be described as illimitables. So that's why they appear as a set on their own, distinct from dana or respect or other kinds of kusala like that. So not special in the sense of the development of the path of understanding to insight, but only can be described differently from other forms of kusala which are not limitable.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see your point, but I can see the benefit of developing these four Brahma Vihara, because when I somehow think about Nama and Rupa, seeing, hearing, etc., my mind becomes quite dry. I somehow need moisture. And these four Brahma Vihara is kind of moisture which keeps my mind from becoming too dry. Can you see my point?
I can see that the appeal of being a person with more of these qualities, yes, that is attractive and something we would like to achieve. On the other hand, what appears more in a daily life to be understood? We don't have to think too much about ordinary namas and rupas. I mean, the development of the path does not have to be thinking all the time about the realities that may be appearing. So
I do.
Personally, I don't find dry or appealing as being. I don't seem to classify things in that way. But
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Tom and Bev, did you have anything you wanted to say, or any questions, comments?
Nothing, thank you.
Roti, it looked like you were trying to say something earlier before Tadao came in.
Tried several times to say something, but I forgot what was it. Oh yeah, I have a question. I remember now regarding metta, regarding kindness. I don't know if I understood correctly, but kindness can only be kindness when it's not my kindness. That's my question.
Dan or Sarah?
There can be roti, there can be kindness, even one's never heard of the Buddha's teachings, like even when you're a child, there were moments of kindness, or like Maeve described, those who've never heard the Buddha's teachings may have great kindness, but without the understanding as taught by the Buddha, it can never be understood as a Dhamma, just a wholesome quality. It will always be taken for my kindness, just like my generosity or my anger or my anything. So before the Buddha's time, there was metta, there was anger. Now, with or without the Buddha's teachings, there is metta and anger, but the only way to understand it as Dhamma is through the Buddha's teachings.
How about Azita or Hang or Sukin? You're there. Did you have anything you wanted?
I'm sorry. I was saying something, but
I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Roti. Please go ahead.
I was mute. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I was saying that I heard also Sarah said it at some point about true kindness. So that was what made me a little confused, as if there was kindness and then true kindness.
Well,
Like
kindness is always true kindness, but without understanding, there can what is fake kindness can be taken for being true kindness. I think that was probably my point. So without understanding, when one's kind to the insect or kind to one's children, it may just be at moments of attachment. It may be fake kindness that is taken for being true kindness. So if there's no understanding of kindness when it appears, who can say whether it is true kindness or not?
because I was kind of when we were talking about kindness, I was kind of comparing it to greed. We usually never say that greed and true greed, right? Or we never say like, in order for greed to be greed, it has to be without the self idea and things like that, right? So,
but it's in a way it's the same. Without understanding, it will still be the idea of my greed, and it will just be speculating about the situation. One will say, I ate a meal and for half an hour I was so greedy. It's actually not any understanding of lobha, which arises just at particular moments for an instant and then is gone, not my greed. So it's conventional idea of greed, just like the metta is like a conventional idea of kindness, not understanding of the reality itself when it appears as Dhamma.
right.
And without the understanding about different citas and cetasikas, and when they arise, it will always be the idea of something, a state lasting, not the understanding, just a Dhamma that arises for a moment and is gone instantly. But I think the reason I mentioned about true metta is usually it is attachment that is taken for being metta rather than metta that is being taken for attachment. Usually we take what is akusala for being kusala far more often. But it could be any Dhamma, comparing the conventional idea and the actual reality. Like compassion, we have a conventional idea of when we go to the hospital and visit someone sick that there is compassion, but this is not the reality of compassion, karuna cetasika, which is understood when it appears just for an instant and is gone. Just a long story about compassion, including feeling sorry and crying and grieving for the sick person and moments of seeing and hearing and all these other things. And I think that, like someone said, or when Tadao said, just hearing about seeing an invisible object may sound boring. People want to hear about my metta or my dose, how can I get rid of my dosa and this kind of thing. But not the understanding right now of the reality of seeing and what is seen. There is no way to get rid of the idea of self, because the distinction between the nama, the moments of experiencing, and the rupa, that which is experienced, cannot be known just by thinking and talking about metta. And as Ajahn said, the first vipassana jnana is nama rupa paracheda jnana. There has to be the clear understanding of the distinction between nama and rupa. Otherwise, impossible to get rid of the idea of dhammas as belonging to I or being something.
I also have a question about something that Tadao said, when he asked about nama, knowing nama as nama, or understanding things as they are. Does that, like, understanding things as they are, does that mean understanding them as anatta or any of the other two characteristics? Is that what it's meant?
Jonathan, we can't hear you.
Thanks, Anne. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Understanding realities as they truly are, means understanding any aspect of a conditioned reality. For example, visible object is a rupa. A visible object is that which is experienced by seeing consciousness. Visible object, being a conditioned Dhamma, it also has the characteristic of anicca, of dukkha, and of anatta. Visible object arises momentarily and falls away again. So it doesn't matter what aspect of reality is actually experienced by panya. That will depend on many factors, including the level of development of panya, but it may be weak or strong depending on the conditions, on the circumstances. But it means understanding some aspect of the true nature of a conditioned reality.
So that, okay, because I think I have heard very often that it's said that, for example, understanding nama as nama, it means that it's not somebody, that is just a nama.
Depends on what one understands by just a nama. Because to me,
yeah.
Nama indicates that is that which experiences.
Okay.
Something.
That is true. That which experiences seeing now is just the seeing which sees, not I see, not anyone sees, not something sees.
That is another aspect of.
It's just the seeing itself which.
That is another aspect of when we say just a nama, not self. Well, that is at least two different aspects of the reality of the present moment. One, that it's a nama, not a rupa, and the other that it is not self, which is the characteristic of anatta. One of the three characteristics of every conditioned reality.
And the rupa, the visible object, is just that which is seen, that Dhamma which is seen, not a computer, not wrote his glasses, not anyone or anything, just that which is seen for a moment and then gone.
I think the point is it's awareness and understanding which will determine which aspect of reality is seen at the present moment, not what we think is the particular aspect that should be more seen than others, for example.
Because I think I remember hearing Ajahn saying that something like, I said it was a Dhamma, not a self. But no.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I heard that. I think I remember. I think I translated actually. Ajahn saying something like when I say it's a Dhamma, I mean it's not a self.
That's what is meant by Dhamma. It's just the reality.
Correct.
That's something else than understanding.
Not a thing at all.
Rupa, yeah.
The hardness is just that which is hard. It's not a computer which is hard. It's not a cup which is hard. It's just patawi dhatu, just that element which is experienced at this very moment. And that's the world at this moment, just that hardness which is touched. Nothing else at all. Gone instantly.
When you get angry, you know that I'm angry?
Yes.
Okay. It's the only anger, or I know that I'm angry.
Well, in reality, there's only anger, but
We're talking about moment of getting angry. It's you or not you who get angry?
Well, I think it's me, but in reality, it's only anger, not me.
So the anger does not appear as it is, right?
Right.
That's why before anything can appear, it can appear only to the highly developed panya, that no one there, see. And what is the meaning of no one there? Only anger, which is the object of many, many process of experiencing that. See, that's why even to understand only that nothing at all, it means that no world there at all. No sun, no moon, no light or anything at all. But that characteristic just is there. It experiences. It's not just like hardness or softness, but no thinking about that at all, because it has been thought for so long before it can be object of clear understanding. It just appear as what is seen now, as it is. So only there, thinking about that moment, nothing there. Otherwise, when something is together, many things or more than just one, is it clear enough? Not at all. That's why in order to understand what's meant by vipassana must be different from any moment at all in life. That's why what that is meant by the understanding is there as no one at all. So what experiences is just that. Anger is anger, or like is like, or vedana feeling is different. And it appears just one at a time in what? Darkness. Because only light is only through the sense, the idol only. See, that's why no one can imagine that which hasn't arisen yet, like direct awareness. When it's not direct awareness, yes, how can Panya understand the difference between understanding the meaning now as I am understanding, but no word at all? It's there as I. That's why at that moment, no I, no thing at all, only that which appears as it is. Otherwise, it cannot be vipassana, different from any other moment. But it's not enlightenment as the Four Noble Truths yet. It has to develop on and on to a higher and higher and higher understanding of different level of vipassana jnana. But by being anatta, so how great patience must be to understand what is there now, like just as it appeared. It has appeared to vipassana jnana only, but it applies that understanding can understand little by little about whatever is there now in life naturally by conditions. That's why it's quite a long, long way and very subtle to understand the moment of I. For example, when Kuntadao asks about, I'm thinking about who sees the same object as I or not. See, at that moment, I think of I see and the other sees. See, there is always I in one's life all the time. That's why before there can be the light which can go deeply to see, to understand the truth, it's quite deeper, deeper and deeper to understand how subtle and deep reality is now arising all the time. So very rapidly all mixed up. No understanding of each as each and not self at all. That's why we learn to understand that when Panya can reach or attain that moment as no one at all, it must be different from we are learning about them because there is all around as things and people all the time. But at that moment, what about reality appears as it is light, and the other realities is not, or in darkness, then that is the difference between the minder and the sensor. Otherwise, who knows? We're talking about sensor and I and minder all the time, different minders and different sensor from moment to moment, unknown all the time. That's why we begin to understand that what is meant by enlightenment must be quite different from what appears in life from eons and eons ago. And Buddha is the first one who developed Panya Parami to become Samma Sambuddho with his great virtues, Panya, and virtue and purity and compassion, so we can hear and begin to understand how ignorance in life, from life to life, not understanding the truth of whatever is now appearing at all. That's why the impression, the sattva, develop more with panya, with moment of understanding, even just a little bit at a time, to see that the best thing in life is to understand the truth, even not in this life, but there is a way, only one way to be developed, to experience such what Buddha had experienced. But as Savaka, without his words, it's impossible for anyone to understand this moment as it is. What about just one reality at a time? Just one. It has to be one, otherwise it's not clear. That's why when there is no understanding of the words of the Buddha at all, we don't know that we are in darkness, not understanding the moment of happiness, unhappiness, and trouble and everything in life from moment to moment, as no one there at all. It's only the way Dhamma is. In Thai, we use the word Thammada, the way Dhamma is. Nobody can change. But it's so hard to get rid or to understand little by little about no one there. Now, it has to be now, because life exists only in a moment, only that moment, from moment to moment, never to return, never to arise again. In samsara, who knows? But at that moment, reality appears as it is, as is that, until panya develops on and on, getting used to whatever is there in common life, natural, very natural, like now. The same thing, but no understanding of that. Only the highly developed panya to that degree can experience the truth of that more and more until the moment of enlightenment is there. Can eradicate the wrong understanding of self, which is like miracle, great miracle. Not knowing what is what until know what is what, until experience it directly, until it develops, until the reality appears as it is, only through vipassana jnana. Otherwise, people mistake the vipassana jnana as now, just go to the meditation center, just walking, sitting, and what is the understanding? See, and that is not the teachings of the Buddha. That's why the one who understands the teachings of the Buddha knows what is the teaching of the Buddha and what is not, and what is the purpose, which is quite a long, long, long way. Nobody can know how long it is until Panya is there and see how subtle it is to understand. Impossible to be the I who can try, who can do anything. And the confidence of the anatta, no one there, begins to develop little by little until it let go. So very great, clean, very firm, very stingy, sticky idea of self cannot be just taken away little by little, wearing away by panya only. No expectation for anything. Otherwise, that moment is akusla, unknown, as it conditions stronger and stronger idea of I. Even it's the moment of listening to the word Dhamma. That is not enough. And it can be object of desire. I would like to see. So it takes very wise considering at moment when whatever is there right now. when there's no panya now, it's impossible to have better and better understanding, which is higher and higher panya, little by little. See, so let go means no clinging to do anything as I can do, but understand better what is this moment is gone, no more. Little by little in a day, from hearing, considering, until it can understand at any moment as conditioned. Even thinking about the truth is conditioned when it's time. But anyone try to think, to consider the truth, it's impossible, because all which are reality is different one is conditioned and gone completely. And this is the teachings of the Buddha about the absolute truth. Whatever is there now, gone, completely unknown. So the question about whether it appears or not, only Panya can know. Is the reality appearing now, or just thinking about it, or it's still dark because it's underneath the ocean of ignorance and attachment? So having more confidence to understand what is now appearing from listening carefully, wisely, will bring more and more understanding, but very, very slowly, very, very little at a time. But one day, that which is accumulated from this moment will condition such understanding from stage to stage. So, beginning to understand whether reality appears well or not at all, when there's no understanding of the truth of the Buddha's word, who has enlightened all the truth, as what he said. And by then, when it's there, no doubt about it, is just like what Buddha said and what we studied and understood little by little from moment to moment. Can this will condition the letting go of that which is now appearing, not there anymore, no matter who knows, and yes, there or not. It has to be just the way it is.
Can't hear you, Anne.
Thank you, Ajahn. I think Sawadika. Yeah. Thank you.
Sandika.
Thank you. Bye.